He didn't say this exactly, but he's basically like, I don't really want them. If those are the type of players where it's like, I'm afraid that person, if I coach him too hard, is going to leave, I kind of want him to leave anyway.
Well, and that's one thing I like about Matt Rhule is that he's willing to be a hard coach without having to give ultimatums. It's not do well or this is going to happen. It's just do well. That's it.
45, 50, 45, 40, 35, 30. He's going to go. Holy cow.
Big Red Junkies.
Day by day. Day by day. He gets better and better. We get better and better. Team is JPB. Oh, man, woman, and child. He just turned this stadium inside out.
Well, to start us off, happy birthday, Jed.
Happy fucking birthday, man.
Yeah.
Wish I was drinking tonight.
You're what? 57, 63?
25, as always.
25.
For the 22nd straight year.
Well, we are getting together on Jed's birthday, as you can tell, Thursday night. If you haven't wished him a happy birthday yet, go out and do that.
If you haven't wished him a happy birthday by now, you're too late.
Yes, you're too late. Indeed.
Just another day. No big deal.
No, there's been some exciting press conferences this week we wanted to get together and chat about. We've got another show we're going to do tonight, specifically addressing whether or not we think quarterbacks are a thing right now. So yeah, we are 29 away from our 1,000 mark on subscribers.
Do it.
Please hit the subscribe button. Send it to a friend. Get them in on it. Subscribe. Help us out, guys.
We're gonna have,
if you don't like football.
Once we do it, we're going to have a big party.
And
everybody's invited.
Everybody's invited.
We're not going to tell you where it is, but you're invited.
Is this a pants party?
Yep.
It's a party in Matt's pants.
Yep.
What? Matt's headed to Vegas tomorrow. It's a wild and crazy night.
Everybody's partying.
It's a wild and crazy night. But no, I mean, we're one day removed from Tony White taking the podium yesterday.
I thought that was today.
That was today.
Was it just today?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I'll tell you what, since Monday, it feels like...
The future is now, old man.
It feels like it's been like 4 weeks.
Was it that long of a day today?
Yeah. Well, the last 4 days have been...
Dude, it was a long week on Monday.
Yeah. But, I the biggest thing for me that I'm so excited about is there seems to be a different level of seriousness to the way all of the coaches are talking this year.
Well, it has gotten more serious as it's gone on. We heard Rhule earlier this week talk about how much he got after the coaches to get after the players. And we heard it from Tony White today saying how, coach got after me like crazy.
Rhule ripped his ass.
Yeah. After the scrimmage this last Saturday.
Where apparently the offense did well.
And some people came out of some of the people that were able to watch that practice or that scrimmage said that Harburg was actually the best quarterback of the bunch.
No kidding.
So, it's kind of one of those, like, when the offense does so well, according to a lot of people, and then the defensive coordinator comes out and says he got his ass chewed out, I tend to start to believe that the offense did really well. Yeah.
It's one of those things. And we heard last year in the spring about how good the defense looked. And everybody's like, oh, the defense is still going to suck. Are they really just trying to talk them up? No, they were actually really fucking good. So if our offense takes a leap forward like that, I'd be happy.
Well, and also throughout all of football, whether not just Nebraska, in the pros and in college, every time that there's practices leading up to the season, you always hear the defense is ahead of the offense. Mm-hmm. All the time. And then as the season approaches, it kind of starts to even itself out. To be this early in the process, to hear that the offense is doing so well against a defense that we know is very good,
The one thing
bodes well.
The one thing I'm going to say about that, though, and I don't know how much I'm talking out of school here, but it sounds like they've been holding the more experienced upperclassmen out of a lot of these scrimmages.
Yes, but there's been some,
especially on defense.
But there's been some upperclassmen, offensive linemen, for instance, that have been held out as well.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Rhule mentioned Ben Hart, and then I know they held out
Ben Scott,
Robinson. Yeah, Ben Hart and Ben Scott, and then they held out Robinson and Hutmaker on Saturday as well.
So it kind of evens itself out a little bit.
Did they talk to why they're holding those guys up?
Just he mentioned.
They just want to get other people good reps.
He mentioned
or what?
the 1,000 reps in spring.
Yep.
Got it.
That was his big deal, and he said it was something he learned from Paterno when he was playing there, that your upperclassmen, they've got a lot more wear and tear on their body. Mm-hmm. You get them out of there early in spring, and you let the young guys get in.
You know what you're getting from the experienced guys.
Yeah.
For me, when I heard Rhule talking about stuff like that, whether it's the 1,000 reps or just saying, I know what Ben Scott can do. I know what Ty Robinson can do. You know, guys like that. To me, it almost sounded like bull practice. I know we don't know what that is for a long time.
They have to treat it like bull practice.
But typically in bowl practices, the young guys, especially the redshirt guys, they practice more than anybody else does. I mean, yeah, the week leading up, maybe week and a half leading up to the bowl game, you'll start to get game reps and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's all about getting the young guys that haven't gotten a shit ton of reps throughout the season, just some practice reps.
Right.
It felt like that's how they're almost handling currently spring practice, where they just want to get the young guys some reps.
Well, and I think they're doing a lot with the transfers to see what they've got.
Yeah.
The transfer ins, I mean, the guys they've
I
gotten so far. Because you've heard them directly. One of the media guys, I don't remember who it was, asked directly about Stephon Thompson. How's he doing? And it sounds like he's doing a lot better. I think Dvorak was the one who was asked that question
today,
and he said, you know, yes, he did. He struggled with all of it. Now, it wasn't. He listed it off. He said it wasn't just school. It wasn't just the way that we practiced. It was kind of all of it.
It sounded like a lot of it was weight, because Rhule kind of mentioned how he's gotten his weight together. Dvorak mentioned something about his weight, how he's gotten in better shape. It sounded more like, and there might be some other stuff, but
he even mentioned their sleep protocols.
Yeah. It kind of mentioned that he came in overweight and he needed to get that all shipped up. I mean, he was one of the guys, kind of like Mazuka, where he kind of got called out a little bit in one of the press conferences about, maybe coming in not really ready for our system.
But if you're going to come in as an upperclassman, you should be expected, like, hey, we didn't let you come in here just to come in here and be an upperclassman. Mm-hmm. If you're going to come in as a new person to the program, as both of those guys that you just listed off, they're both class of 2020 guys. Like, those guys should be in peak performance, ready to go, starter mentality all the time. And they weren't. It doesn't sound like.
Yeah. Well, and not just physically with all of that stuff, but a guy like Stephon Thompson, he's a guy that can step in because he knows the defense.
Yeah.
There's not really much of a learning curve outside of learning the Nebraska system. There's a difference between knowing the 3-3-5 Tony White defense and learning what Matt Rhule and his program wants to be.
Yeah. It's lucky in that position, specifically for Stephon Thompson, that we have Bullock sitting there.
Yeah.
A guy who's worked his way up from being a walk-on, that now, you heard Dvorak today say that he's kind of taken hold of that room. Like he's
that Reimer and Heinrich had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Yeah. One of my favorite things from today's press conference was a question that was asked to Tony White. And they were talking about defensive linemen, specifically having Ty Robinson and Nash Hutmacher sit out a lot. And they said, do you judge the rest of the defensive line that you're putting out there a little bit differently in their performance as a whole when you don't have those two big guys out? He immediately, no. The standard is the standard. It doesn't matter who the hell's out there.
Next man up.
We're doing it, and we have a certain standard that we have to do that. That's not an exact quote, but
those two guys are not the defense. The defense is the defense.
Yeah.
So it legitimately doesn't matter what the name is on the back. You expect that out of that position.
I understood the question. I loved the answer.
I got to be honest, I'd have been upset if the answer was anything different.
You're right. But it was just like...
we're letting them... We understand the studs aren't out there.
We're grading them on a curve, and, we'll figure it out. Matt Rhule has talked about it many times. It's okay to put pressure on these guys. And if they can't handle the pressure, there's the door. I don't know what to tell you.
That was one of the coolest things on Monday when he was, he was super fired up on Monday in his presser about the portal stuff that's going on. Everybody's talked about it already, but just the fact that, he's already got players coming to him, showing him text messages from other coaches, things like that. And he went on to talk about how, I don't remember if it was specifically asked or if he just went into it, but talked about how he would be doing a disservice to everyone, including the kids that want to transfer, if he was coaching them afraid of them transferring. Yep. And if he I think his direct quote was, if I'm afraid to coach them hard because I don't want them to transfer them, that I'm doing them a disservice.
Well, and he kind of added, and they might not be good for us. Like,
yeah. Well, it's not going to be good for anybody.
I mean, he didn't say this exactly, but he's basically like, I don't really want them. If those are the type of players where it's like, I'm afraid that person, if I coach him too hard, is going to leave, I kind of want him to leave anyway.
Well, and that's one thing I like about Matt Rhule is that he's willing to be a hard coach without having to give ultimatums. It's not do well or this is going to happen. It's just do well. That's it. And then everything else will fall into place.
Well, and also, all of those players know what that expectation is.
Yes.
Not one of them can come out of there and be like, well, I didn't know what was expected of me, and then they were being dicks to me, blah, blah. No. You know damn well what the expectation is from the top to the bottom of all that entire coaching staff. You've said it 1,000 times. Every coach and player that you hear go up to a press conference sounds exactly like Matt Rhule.
They're little robots.
So they know what the standard is. If they're not going to live up to it, that's on them, not on anybody else.
Yeah.
See, that's one of the craziest things that we've gotten a lot. I feel safe trudging down this territory because we haven't brought up Scott Frost in the past a lot in the last several episodes. But that's just one thing. Is your nose whistling? Well, God damn it, Jed.
I don't think that was a whistle. I think that was a snowstorm.
Hey, by the way, for that nose whistle, we probably lost a subscriber. So please, we need your help. Subscribe.
Well, he didn't subscribe. His wife unsubscribed for him.
Jesus Christ. Oh, sad.
If you know anybody that likes a good nose whistle.
A good nose whistle. Good nose job. I completely lost my train of thought there. But
something back about Scott Frost.
Well, yes. That wasn't something that we heard. The uniformity wasn't something we heard. And when your leader is not leading by example, when they're not somebody that is setting a standard and following that standard, adhering to everything and doing the things that they say they're going to do, how can you expect any of the players on the team to be doing it? There's a reason that for the last 4 or 5 drafts, a Nebraska player hasn't gone. And it's not because we don't have talent on the team. It's because NFL players, NFL coaches, NFL front offices, NFL owners all have standards. Mm-hmm. And they expect people to come in and conduct themselves professionally, which wasn't happening from the top. They expect people to come in and have standards set for themselves and be able to follow a process and understand how things are supposed to look from a professional standpoint. And that wasn't happening. That's completely different now. And I think just because of that aspect, you're going to see, we still didn't have anybody invited to the combine this year. But I think you're going to see players, it's going to be a building process, but more players will start to go in, not just because we're going to be better, even though I think we are. It's going to be more about the fact that there's structure there now. But back to the point that you made about, maybe that was kind of a message to those guys, like, hey, I'm not giving you an ultimatum, but we've got standards, this is what we're going to do, and if I can't coach you hard because I'm afraid of you leaving, probably don't want you anyway. When I heard Corey Collier jumped in the portal, it kind of hit me because I was excited about him coming in from Florida last year. He's another upperclassman guy, a class of 21 guy that I figured for sure with all the new DBs that we brought in this year, he was going to be one of those, going to be a leader this year. Mm-hmm. The fact that he hit the portal, that hits it right on the head for me.
Yeah.
He got coached hard, didn't like it, didn't live up to the standard, whatever it might be. We're probably never going to know.
No.
But he's gone. At least we assume he's gone.
Yeah. I think it's one of two things. It's either that he didn't like how he was being coached, or he already knew he wasn't getting the job he thought.
Yeah.
And he wanted to get on the field somewhere.
Well, and I think one of the bigger things also with Corey Collier leaving is you always hear coaches, we will recruit over you. And I think some of the guys that they've brought in are better than him.
We're hearing about one of them, and he's a guy that we all thought, Bly Hill, who the hell is this string bean guy coming in at corner that's
from Buttfuck State Community College or whatever, like
Mount St. Joseph.
Yeah.
in Waldorf, Maryland.
Yeah.
But he's lighting it up from the way it sounds. Tony White talked today about how he's just been stacking good days on good days on good days all spring.
That says something when you're getting called out in a press conference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're seeing them kind of maneuver their way with all these transfer guys that they brought in that they expect to be players. You saw him talk about Nair for like 2 weeks straight. It was nothing but Nair. And then there was a concerted effort on Monday by Rhule to make sure he brought up Banks and like, hey, by the way, guys, he's still doing everything that we were talking about a month ago. Well, we just don't have to suck his dick every time we're at the podium.
Well, specifically like with Bly Hill, and we've talked about this. We talked about this last year with Cam Lenhart, guys like Cam Lenhart and Prince Will. He have some guys that are basically going to work so hard that you cannot help but put them on the field.
Yeah.
Bly Hill
Be undeniable.
When practices first started, some drills first started, not even like practices, just drills first started, we saw lots of videos of guys running across the field and stuff like that. And,
you were the first one to point it out.
well, somebody else pointed it out on Twitter, and I, went with it as well. So it wasn't me necessarily, but after watching the videos that these people would point out, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Bly Hill was always in the front of the pack. Like, Bly Hill is clearly being undeniable. He's like, bitch, I dare you to keep me on the sideline. That's what he's doing. And that's what
Not to mention he has elite speed.
Yeah. But I mean, that's what some of these guys are doing. And when you do stuff like that, and I'm not trying to say Corey Collier wasn't, but guys like Bly Hill are doing it better, clearly. Yeah. And that scares people at times. And that's why some people want to transfer. So
the same sort of a sentiment I feel is when you hear Matt Rhule was asked specifically about Vincent Shavers on Monday, and he straight up said, "Man, I hate talking about freshmen." He actually, I think he said, "I hate talking about rookies," which is funny. But he said, "I hate talking about freshmen," but I have to say this about him, and he went on to basically just gush about Vincent Shavers and how hard of a worker he is and how grateful he is, and he's doing everything that they ask of him. And then today, the same thing, Tony White brought him up, unprompted, brought up Vincent Shavers. And then Shavers was talked about again.
Well, Tony White was listing off a handful of linebackers.
That's right, yeah. But then Dvorak was asked directly about his recruitment and how it was basically all like, it was kind of like the way that they found out about Dylan Raiola. It's like last minute, all of a sudden I want to come in. This kid, last minute, was like that week, the week before signing day, just happened. And it's exciting stories about that. That's exactly what you just talked about. Be undeniable. Make them talk about you.
I forgot to look. Is that the kid from Miami? One of those last minute?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I believe so. I know he's out of South Florida. I'm not sure it was Miami, but it's stories just like that. And the other thing that I loved this week that I just remembered right now is Garrett McGuire talking about the two new guys, Banks and Nair, and he was asked directly, what's the differentiator between the two of them? Because we heard when they came in, they're both big-bodied wide receiver possession guys. But he said, no, really, Nair's more of that long speed threat, and Banks is that, red zone threat, basically. And I thought that was cool to see that we didn't just, we don't have three Megatrons. We actually have, two speed guys and a tight end style, old school high point guy.
Well, and I pointed it out a little bit. Actually, I don't remember if I said it on the show, but I know I said it to you guys at least after the show when we were talking about yards after catch. And I looked at what Jamal Banks and Nair had done at obviously their previous stops. And Jamal Banks, he does not have yards after catch.
I catch the ball, I fall down.
Yeah,
basically. Catch the ball, I fall down.
His yards after catch were 1.6 on average.
Hopefully that's just because it's always in the end zone.
Yeah, no, I mean
1.6 because he's falling forwards.
Hey, the thing is, he had 60 to 80 catches and 800 yards or what. That I'll take it. If you only have 1.6 yards after catch and you have that kind of production,
oh god,
I'm okay.
Yeah,
just means you're down the field.
I'm not hating it, whatever. But it's just a different style of player. Yeah.
The one other thing that I got from McGuire was he did mention Malachi is still not practicing full contact.
Yeah.
Which that's a little bit worrisome when you heard originally in the first week of spring that it was just a tweaked ankle.
I mean,
first week of spring was only 2 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago.
I kind of think that they're just being cautious just to make sure everybody's good. Because hell, even
you don't have to push him.
That's
even some of the running backs.
You got 150 days until the first game,
something like that.
Ramir Johnson, he's practicing, but he's no contact. Gabe Irvin is practicing, but he's limited contact. There's just guys that they're just protecting just to make sure that nothing gets exacerbated and it becomes long-term stuff. Because
especially for something like an ankle, because you don't treat an ankle right on rehab, and it can nag you for a whole fucking season.
Oh, for sure.
And again, almost kind of like treating it like bowl practices. Just like, hey, we know who you are. I'm not that Malachi Coleman is the most experienced player in the world, like a Ben Scott and what we were talking about earlier. But we think that we know what we have in Malachi Coleman. You're good. Just, run a couple of drills, run a couple of routes. We don't need you full go.
The thing McGuire said he missed most about having him out there right now is his tenacity on setting the edge and his blocking abilities and being able to kind of be that example for even Banks and Nair. So it's interesting, man. I love all the extra media access. It gets us more excited. It gives us more to talk about for the spring stuff especially, but it's also giving us more of a look at their process and how they're approaching this portal. And like we know, the portal opened up yesterday or Tuesday for the first time for the post-spring window or whatever it is. We're going to get into that.
And it goes to the end. It goes to the beginning of May.
It'll be interesting
May
to see
1st, I think, when
how many guys we actually end up seeing go in the portal. Because we're going to have to. We've got 3 dudes in there, 4 dudes in there now.
Two as of right now. I just looked it up. 2 as of right now.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what's going to come of that, because we've still got to get down like 20 scholarships.
Yeah.
We'll be in this spot pretty much every year.
I've given up on checking scholarship limits and all that stuff because there's ways around it, and
they'll get where
they'll figure it out eventually, no matter how it gets played out. I don't care.
Hey, we're taking your scholarship away, but go do this ad for this car dealership.
Yeah.
Well, they can't say that directly.
Not to us.
I mean, they kind of can now. Actually, that rule came out that the universities can facilitate NIL deals.
Sure.
So they can absolutely do that.
Mm-hmm.
Problem solved.
And this may be the most unbelievable night in Cornhusker football history.